What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Channel 8 podcast. I'm very excited today because we have another guest, a very good friend of mine and someone I admire very much. He is known as Mike G, aka Plastic Lyfe, one of the up-and-coming toy photographers coming up from here in Toronto, Canada. How's it going, Mike?
What's up, man? Thanks for the kind words right off the bat. You never said that about me in life.
Oh, it's only because it's a public podcast. That's why I gotta butter you up in public. You know? How's it going, though?
It's going good, man. Sunday, nice weather outside. Just walked the dog. Ready to jump on with you.
Spring is looks like spring's finally here.
Spring is sprung, man.
Yeah, we can finally break out our nice shoes and not worry too much about stuff.
I was breaking them out even in the winter, though. So you know me, I just wear all my stuff.
So I guess on that note, let's start things off with talking about what shoes you've been wearing in the past week, or I don't know, in your case, maybe if you've been sticking with the same rotation, what you've been wearing lately.
No, so I mean, it is Air Max month, so I'm following the trend too. I've been working from home half the week and then working in the office the other half, so I haven't gone out too much. But the times that I have gone out, so yesterday it was really nice yesterday, so I wore the Air Max 90 Off-White OGs. I wore the Air Max 90 Infrareds. The day before that, on Thursday, I walked the dog in the Air Max 1 Royals, or Royal and White, and then just like doing some work in the backyard with the Air Max 1 White Red. What else did I wear? Oh, the Recraft Volts. Another one. I mean, I'm following a trend here, like Air Max 90s and Air Max 1s. That's essentially my Air Maxes, like the gist of it. So I usually stick to those 2 or 3. And these Air Max 95s in the gold colorway that people just rip on me for. I don't know why, but I like it. It's gold. It looks nice, but a lot of people say like these look really bad. So, but I like them. I wear them to death.
Is it all gold or which one?
Yeah, it's like that. Came out a few years ago though. It was just, it's gold, but it's not gold like the Air Max 97s where it's like that really shiny metallic gold. It's almost like a dulled down gold, like from like a, I don't know, like an ancient coin or something like that. It just looks like, but I like them, man, but I wear them all the time. So
yeah, word.
That's the gist of my rotation for this week.
I think we both really appreciate the Off-White Air Max 90, right?
Yeah.
That's one of your tops, right?
That's definitely probably my favorite shoe that I've worn. Mine has gone down a lot in terms of the look now. The foam and the tongue has turned to like a gray color. The toe box is usually like almost like a tinted blue. Yeah, mine's like a yellowish now. So not to mention like one of the hairs at the top of my head has found its way into like the mesh of the toe box. So I've tried everything to get it out. I've vacuumed it. I've like done everything I can, but that hair is like permanently embedded into.
That just means if you ever saw that shoe, a part of you will always be with that pair.
It's a relic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, same thing, Air Max month. So I've been continuing that trend. Day one, I broke out also the Off-White Air Max 90, the OG colorway. Except my pair, like I've only worn it like 10 times probably, so it's still it looks pretty good. After that, I wore the Air Max 95 Era. Do you remember that pair? I think it was from last year.
Yeah.
Kind of had that safari sort of look to it.
Yeah.
And then I broke out the Air Max 1 Windbreaker. That one's like a really slept on pair. After that, I wore the Air Max 90 by You. So this is the one I designed to look like the Pure Plat Yeezy 2s.
Oh, yes. Yeah, but you're really good at it, man. Like the stuff that you come up with for your Nike by Yous and IDs, like it almost looks like it was done by Nike. Like they gotta hire you, man. Like, seriously.
Honestly, though, it's just a matter of like copying other iconic colorways for the most part. But
yeah.
Other than that, so I wore the Air Max 97 Silver Bullets, the Air Max 1 Tinker Hatfield Schematic, which is like that white pair with the black lines all over it. And then yesterday was the Air Max 97 Shanghai Kaleidoscope from the On Air collection. So that's my rotation. In terms of pickups, so I know you've kind of been on a sort of a sneaker hiatus,
Not
or
so much a hiatus, more like a availability. Can't get can't get the things that I need. I don't know what's going on with Air Maxes in Canada, but I find that a lot of the the collab releases or the special releases kind of stop at size 12, and I'm size 13. So I mean, you know my story. Like there's a few pairs that I released, like the Atmos, like Ghost Greens. I really wanted those, but for some reason it stopped at size 12. And then you look at the aftermarket prices, and size 13 is like way more than size 8 through 12. So it's not much of a hiatus. It's more like the availability. Like I just can't seem to get what I need. So yeah,
hold that thought because I do want to talk to you about that in a bit.
good. All right.
So, in the past, what's the last shoe you bought?
Last shoe that I bought, other than the Nike Bayou that we designed together, was the Co JP white navy Jordan 1
Okay.
and the Neon 95s, the new release, and the infrared 90s, the re-release too.
And I'm guessing all three of those were retail only, right?
Yes, those are all retail. In terms of stuff on my radar that I'd pay resale for, I don't think there's anything right now that I'm gunning for. So far it's just whatever I got for retail. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's relatively speaking, it's been a light week. I got a pair of Adidas Stan Smiths from Adidas Canada. So they sent me, it's like the special recycled version. So it's called Prime Green and it's made from like recycled materials, which is a really good cause. I got a pair of the Nike Hirachis, the Scream Green colorway. Those are from Nike.ca. Still waiting on those in the mail. And then aside from that, just looking at I have an Excel spreadsheet.
Man,
The Easy Boost 700 V2 creams. Yeah. So I just posted a review on that like a couple days ago. So for those of you guys who haven't watched it, be sure to check out my YouTube channel.
Supreme Dunks, or was that last week
Supreme Dunks was last week, I believe,
that you
or
picked
like the
up?
week before. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so soft week for you. I don't feel so embarrassed to be on the show.
Had to keep it light for you.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, so I know how long have I known you? It's been 5, 6 years.
Yeah, probably around 5, 6 years. I think we've known of each other through other friends,
Yep.
but we really started chatting more about like 5 years ago, I'd say. Yeah.
So I've actually never found out about your origin story in terms of like getting into sneakers. So how did that even happen?
Wow. I usually get asked about origin story for like action figures and stuff. So my sneaker origin story, back in well, I mean, growing up, we kind of all had our kind of, you know, our admiration for NBA and stuff like that. So you've always wanted to get the shoes that you see your favorite athletes wearing. And I think, yeah, we're in the same age bracket. So we 80s babies, you know, 90s was essentially the time where we started like getting some hype stuff. Like as far back as I can remember is like my mom buying me like Air Max Plus in like the hideous like hyper orange colorway. That was just like kind of what kickstarted it. Like my mom, I think this kind of came from my mom though. She always wanted me to I think it was a status thing where she wanted me to like have kind of at least a good clothes on the first day of school and things like that. So she'd always take me out the weekend of Labor Day and you know pick a few things. Obviously not too expensive, so I couldn't get any ball shoes, but I was usually getting like you know some Air Maxes that I would see or some Reeboks or something like that, just something to look presentable on the first day of school. So that's kind of like where the origin started. So I always really liked shoes, but I never had money until we got to university. Got my first job, and then I think 2007 was the release of the Jordan 22 in the black and varsity red. That was the first actual Jordan that I was really proud of getting. That's kind of what kickstarted the love for the modern day sneaker collecting. So one of our mutual friends, Norm, shout out to Zero Regret, but he worked at Foot Locker at around that time, and he said, "Hey man, like we got this friends and family discount. Do you want something?" And
What was that 50-day or?
50 day, yeah, is what we
Yeah.
referred to it as. Yeah. So I ended up picking up the Jordan 22s. And then since then, it was like just a downhill like cascade of just spend all your money on sneakers. And uh, I I don't know, like that's essentially where it came from. But there was a poster that I had. I don't know what magazine it was in, but I had a poster of Jordan, and he had the Jordan 1 black toes kind of
Yep.
tied, the laces tied behind his neck, and it was just like after a training session. And I like absolutely loved that poster, and that I had to, after getting the Jordan 22s, I had to get the Jordan 1 black toes. So I mean, I'm sitting on 3 pairs right now of black toes, and that's kind of like my grail shoe, and it all stems from that poster. But I really I just enjoyed that, like lining up with friends and waiting for the new pair of shoes to come. And then like, I mean, that's how I met you, is like through mutual friends and lining up together. So that was some of like the best times of my life, was like getting into sneakers, and
For sure.
that mutual bond that we had, and stuff like that.
So you mentioned your friend, like Norm, our mutual friend. Were there a lot of other people in your circle that were into shoes, or were you kind of that weirdo
No, it
that
was
had?
essentially just me and him, and then my university friends started like seeing like, hey, dude, where are you getting all this stuff from? Because we're all broke in university, but like here's this like 6'5" guy rocking like skinny as a toothpick, but he's got these new Jordans on. So I was like, dude, where are you getting all these things from? So I never really shared my secret with anybody. It wasn't really much of a secret, but um, that it wasn't that big back then, though, to be honest. Like it was more of like, hey man, where'd you get those? Those are really cool. So yeah, like there was no big friend circle. I mean, your one of your previous guests, Richie. Like I ended up meeting Richie in line. I can't remember what release it was. It might have been for Grape Fives or something. But yeah, it's just in my circle of friends in terms of sneakers is still really small. Just you and a few other people. So it's not really it wasn't really a hobby that a lot of people are interested in, mostly because of how expensive they were. So it sometimes people would use it as like a, like, what are you, a girl, like you have so many shoes, like things like
Oh
that.
yeah,
So it
trust
was
me,
one of
I've
those
gotten that
things
too,
where,
man.
yeah, exactly, I was made fun of a lot for collecting sneakers and things like that. But funny thing is, like 10 years later, people are like, oh my God, like this guy was sitting on like a fortune of like sneakers. And now, he's like selling some of his pairs and stuff like that. So I don't know. I guess it kind of worked out in the end. So
Yeah, it's funny when you compare now and then, because similar to you, like I was the weird guy that bought way too many shoes than he needed, and my close friends from high school and university, none of them were really into shoes like I was. And then you compare it to now, where I have younger siblings of my friends who are probably of university age now, and it's such a common and normal thing for people to buy so many pairs of sneakers like we did back in the day, right?
yeah, yeah.
But I think a big chunk of what changed was the whole reselling aspect.
Yeah, so I was listening to your episode a
Yeah.
few weeks ago on the resale stuff, and like it just brought back so many memories, man.
I'm sure you were probably in line with me for a few of those
Yeah, yeah,
terrible
definitely a lot. And
releases.
you were like the early bird who was always like 4 or 5 spots ahead of us. So we'd come. I pull up to line at like, like 6:05, but you were there since like 5:30
Yo,
a.m.
6 a.m. It's too late.
6 a.m. is way too late, right? So, but I'm a size 13, so I'm the guy at the back of the line getting the last pair. So, but I just remember like pulling up, freezing cold. Like there's Shango at the front, and then you got your like the regulars there and stuff like that. But those were the days where like lines were like maybe 30 deep,
Yep.
and now lines are 300 deep.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know where sneakers is going from here, but
Yeah, so you mentioned that because the game has really changed, and for myself, because I have this platform and because Like I don't know how much of it is due to the fact that I'm reviewing shoes on a constant basis, but if I wasn't, I question myself how many sneakers would I be regularly buying on the secondary market and paying over retail price for and stuff like that. I don't know. It's a tough question to answer because for yourself, because there's so much competition and the whole resale aspect is so prevalent in the culture, you have taken a major step down in terms of consumption, right?
Yeah, if I had the opportunity to buy the stuff that I wanted, you'd probably see a lot more stuff in my hands. But I just a lot of times I just don't see it worth paying resale for some things. Obviously, I don't have a platform that I'm reviewing shoes and things like that. If I did, I'll be honest, I would definitely be chasing stuff more. But there's so many releases that if you miss one, something else is going to catch your eye going forward, and it's always been like that. Back then, though, I almost had to have everything, like, but it was easier to get. Like I can walk into a Foot Locker at like 2:30 the day of a release, and a black cement 3 is still sitting there. So now it's like you got to get it like ASAP. But yeah, I wish I had that platform or whatever to want to buy more things. But I just, yeah, it's if it's not available, I just move on to the next one. It's fine.
So was that like a gradual shift in your mindset from going, I need everything that's releasing to, I took an L, but life goes on. I'll find something else next time.
It used to bother me whenever I take an L, but it. I think when I look back at it, um, it was more not about being salty about not getting the shoe. I think I'm a really competitive person in sports and things like that, and like I do show my emotions on my face when playing and stuff like that, especially if it's a big game, like you're in the playoffs or something like that. So I think it was more of a competition thing. Like I had to have it versus I'm upset because that color was like I really like that color. I think now looking back at it, it was more of a competitive thing to me.
And I think for a lot of us, not me and you specifically, but in general, a lot of it is they're going for that high of, getting that W and getting that shoe. But then the next week rolls around and then there's something else that's hyped. People just move on and they suddenly have a new grail on their list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's important though to, especially if you're collecting, to look back at the stuff that you have and like be grateful that you have some of these things that are probably never going to release again. And I think that makes losing uh, easier. Um, like for, I'm just thinking of stuff that I have, like off-white Chicago ones. That was probably the biggest W I've ever gotten in my life, and I almost sold those in line for $1,000. But now I'm grateful that I have those. So when I strike on a Travis Scott, I can look back and say like, hey, like be grateful for the things that I have. So don't you don't have to rage over losing. Just move on to the next shoe.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'll admit I need to work on myself because
Yeah, for sure.
I get the rage, like the post L rage, and then I'll just say screw it. I'm just gonna pay resale, and that adds to the whole cycle of resale culture, which sucks. But I mean, I'm part of that problem. So you've kind of weaned off shoes for a bit, and then it wasn't until recently that you started this toy photography thing. Am I correct?
Yeah. So around the time I started collecting shoes is also the time I started collecting, action figures, we'll call them. Um, it was, Marvel and stuff like that, and like comic stuff was always really big for me as well. I don't know what this is about me, but I like to collect so many things. I think it's like I just like pieces of my childhood, and just hanging on to that stuff. Uh, so obviously, growing up in the '80s, '90s, that's all we really had. There was no internet, so we had comic books to turn to. We had TV shows, cartoons. So I would always keep pieces of that on the side. I wouldn't buy as much figures because I'm buying shoes. Um, so I just ended up amassing this collection of figures, and recently there's been like a massive boom in what's called what people refer to as toy photography, and that's essentially taking pictures of your toys using tangible effects, or you can use Photoshop effects and things like that just to make it look like the figure is essentially in a realistic scenario, or in a comic book scenario. Like, some people recreate panels of comic books with their figures. So I think what it wasn't so much where like I slowed down sneakers to start buying more toys. Figures are just more available to the public than sneakers were. However, on that note, that is starting to change quite rapidly, and that's due to what you've talked about a couple weeks ago in resale. So it's starting to hit that community as well, and it's bringing out a lot of monsters in that community when they take L's not buying a toy. So yeah, just it's always been a passion of mine, and I want to say a couple of people, you yourself, and one of your previous guests, Richie. I really admired your photography, and I tried the whole sneaker photography, but something about it just wasn't pleasing to me. I guess like it was like, okay, like here's a shot of the sneaker. It's not on my feet. It's kind of just there. Unless you're really good at making art with it, it doesn't really appeal to me. So I think there was one post that you posted. Was it the Sean Cliver dunks? I can't
The
remember.
Christmas ones? What?
Yeah,
Which picture?
or what shoe was it though? You had like the food items in the background as well. It was
Oh,
the
the uh, Street Hawkers.
Street Hawkers. Yeah. So that kind of stuff is like when I look at that, like that's art versus me taking a photo of one shoe kind of just there, right? Looks more like a product shot versus like art. So I don't have anything against like that type of photography. It's just it doesn't appeal to me as like, wow, that's amazing. But there are a few people who started taking photos of their figures and started reviewing action figures, like how you review shoes, and it clicked in my head like I have all these things and I have a really artistic background, but I never show it because I'm in healthcare. So it was like I've always been an artistic kid, but I never got to display my art or show off my art. So that's kind of what led me to get into toy photography. Like sneakers is always there. And like I said, if I can get them, you would just see like more mountains behind me. Like, well, nothing really behind me, but yeah, you would see more stuff in my hand and things like that. But I don't think I would be taking photos of it because I don't have that creative mind to make a photo like you did with the street hawkers. So that's essentially kind of where I turned towards toy photography. So like you and Richie had gave me a lot of tips on how to start shooting, and yeah, I wanted to move into kind of my own thing. So I just started this whole toy photography page about a year and a half ago, and I mean it's sort of picked up, but the Instagram algorithm kind of like nerfs you if you're an account that's like below 10K followers. So I'm kind of having that struggle right now. I just need to kind of share my stuff on more platforms and get that out there. But yeah.
Well, I do want to put it out there that your level of development has absolutely impressed me beyond words. Like I remember when you hit me up asking me about lenses and what gear I use and stuff like that. It seemed like it wasn't even that long ago, and then now I'm seeing your work, and I'm actually looking at it. I'm like, how the heck did this guy do this? And then you add that behind the scenes video next to your actual photo in like the carousel for Instagram. I'm like, wow, that's genius. Like, who would have thought to hang Daredevil's Billy Club in that way or add these things in the foreground? It's art, man. And then, like you said, art is so subjective. You just gotta find whatever speaks to you, right? Like there's no right or wrong. If something doesn't speak to you, then maybe this does. And seeing how you're developing so quick is really really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we have more time now, obviously, with like pandemic and things. So I was able to read up more on photography, read up more on things that could help me. Also, even like time to make things to put in the foreground, make things to put in the background. stuff like that. So I think that it really helped.
How long does it take on average to set up that environment for your photos on average?
Looking back at like my older photos, which I wasn't really happy with, I had a lot more props in the older photos. So that style of photography is known in the community as articulated comic book art, where you're using a lot of tangible things. Like I don't know, I have this crate right here that I made out of balsa wood, like super easy, just looks like a shipping crate, right? Pretty straightforward. But you want to put a bunch of those things together to make a scene, and then you take a shot of your figure in the scene or your figures, and then you post it on Instagram. Uh, it really boomed in popularity, and then some people started to add Photoshop effects to their things. So then you have this other side of toy photography, which is the like the photo editing and things like that to make something look really real. And then I like the two of them, and I wanted to hybrid them. So tangible effects with Photoshop effects. So I started learning Photoshop. So now I spend way more time editing than I do setting up uh, a diorama, if you want to call it, or whatever. So if you look at like my most recent shots, it's like two things: the figure and then a backdrop that I got from the internet. Take the photo and then start adding things like smoky effects, lightsabers. If you're doing a Star Wars shot, you want to make the lightsaber glow, things like that. So you want to make the eyes stand out. You want to brighten the eyes, things like that. You want to change the background so that it looks like it all blends together. So I really like that hybrid style of photography. So I think I'm going to roll with that. I think I found my niche, my style of photography. So I'll essentially roll with that. So setting up went from like 2 hours of setup time and like hold like the figure just falling over when you right before you go to click the shutter, to now just set it up, take the shot, take a few of them, and then throw it on Photoshop and start putting in things together.
My background is very similar to you in the sense that I grew up. Well, I don't know what came first for you, shoes or comics, but I was a comic geek as a kid for the longest time. I think starting when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Yeah, so I would say that was my first love. And then I would buy comics heavy. I had how many long boxes? I don't even know. They're still in my parents' house. Do you still have comics, or were you more
I
into
do.
figures?
I still have comics actually. Um, while I break things backing up in my chair right now. Let me see. I definitely still have a massive comic collection. I just have a few things on hand with me right now. Like this is Iron Man issue 1
Jeez.
in a 6 out of 10 condition, from 19, what was it, 66, 68 when that came out. So I still have my comics, like a lot of my stuff, but I do have some Grail stuff. This is first appearance of Deadpool in New Mutants 98. I still need to get that graded as well. But yes, comics was definitely my first love as well, just with you. It's because that's what we had back then, right? Like your mom gives you $5 and like, well, what's there to spend it on other than candy and comics, right? So I think we grew up in a really good time, man, with like cartoons on Saturdays and things like that. But that's essentially what sparked our love for like the geek stuff.
Where did you used to buy your comics from?
There was a few stores in my area. I think one place was called Shining Knights. It was on the Danforth and I say Dundas or Danforth and Donlands area in Toronto. Um, that place had a lot of comics. It was like a huge comic book. I wish they were still around because like they had everything, but that business kind of slowly started to die. And then when I would venture to downtown Toronto, I don't know if you know where Silver Snail is. Few of those places would carry comics as well. But yeah, those are essentially like the places I would go.
Yeah, that brings back so many memories. Like as a kid, having your $10 or whatever, and I used to go to AK Comics in Scarborough,
Okay.
Agent Court Mall. If anyone listening knows
Wow.
where that is, and then there was another place. This guy ran it out of his garage. It sounds shady as hell, but it was near Peanut Plaza in Don Mills and Shepherd near Fairview
Yep.
Mall. So there's another shop there. And then yeah, I'd hit up the downtown spots. Silver Snail when it was back on Queen. There was a place called what was it called? Gray Region on Young and Wellesley. Like 15 years ago, I think they closed down, but it's a dying business
It
model. I think.
definitely is. You can get things online now. Plus, like, I don't know, a lot of the new comic stuff might not be as appealing to our generation as it was before.
Do you still buy books? Because I stopped a while ago.
The only things I do buy now would be like they usually call them graphic novels or whatever. So, like for instance, if you enjoyed the Batman Hush series, instead of buying all the issues, you can just buy the book that has all the issues in them. So I'll usually just buy like a couple of those for story arcs that I want to read about. Like for instance, like the whole Infinity War saga. Instead of collecting every single comic from the Infinity War saga, just buy the book itself, and it has every issue that is related to that story in it. And now with comic books too, like you can just read everything online for free. A lot of these websites like read comics online. You know, you're just looking for a specific issue, or you're looking for a full run of issues, you can just go there and read it. It's all stuff from the past, so it's all there for you. But in terms of buying comic books, I don't think I'll buy a new series. The last series I ended up buying um, was Civil War 2. It just finished like maybe a year or two ago. I think it was 8 issues. So I bought all 8 issues in the time that they came out. But it basically takes Marvel's Civil War, the original comic Civil War, and it's like what happens after that. So
I think just after the original Civil War comic run, like the first volume, shortly after that's when I stopped buying actual physical comics. First of all, the prices of the books were increasing.
yeah,
So it used to be when we were kids, like maybe like $2 per issue, and then it was getting to around like four,
yeah,
five,
man,
right?
$4 or $5 for a 16-page book.
Yeah, and you're buying every month maybe 5 to 10 titles. I don't know. So it got pretty pricey for a relatively young guy at the time. So going forward, how do you see your photography career taking off, and what do you want to do with it?
I don't really know if it's a career or what it's going to be, but I just want to at this moment just share my art and wherever it goes. Like I have that notion in the back of my head, like hopefully one day I can get to like 10K followers, like just to have that K next to your name. I think that's more of like a drive, but it's almost like a stupid drive. You're driving for followers, which I'm just keeping in the back of my mind. But like I said, Instagram and things like that are making it very difficult for you to get your artwork across. I find that, you know, you're better off posting a half naked shot of yourself versus your art to get those I don't know who wants to see me like that, but to get those likes and views. But it's like I don't know how much of it is like the whole sneaker game, like the whole sneaker collecting was like what drove this competitiveness in me to get better at something. And um, maybe one day like I can sell prints and things like that. I think that would be really cool. Obviously, I'm not looking to make like a lot of money on this. It's not going to be a job because I don't see a market for it. There's 10,000 toy photographers. There's 10,000 sneaker photographers. Like it's hard to get your work to stand out to a point where you can turn it into a career. So I think living in Canada too, we don't really get that that if we lived in Asia, for, let's say, a lot of the toy companies there, they might throw you some figures like how sneaker companies would throw you a pair of sneakers to shoot. I don't think they would ship a figure to Toronto from Japan and say like, hey, can you be our photographer for like our company, right? So it doesn't make any sense. So I don't think this is going anywhere as a career. I think it's more of like just a place to share my artwork, and that's pretty much it.
Are a lot of the big action figure like influencers or whatever you want to call them, are they based out of Asia mostly, or
No, the ones that I can think of off the top of my head, maybe based in New York, but there's a toy company in New York that that would send you a few things. So, things like that. I don't really see people getting things gifted. Sometimes Hasbro likes to gift stuff to loyal customers and things like that, but um, yeah, generally not, because they're such massive companies that they'll get somebody to photograph from within the company to do product shots and stuff like that. And it's more like staple product shots, like black background and then the figure kind of show off all sides of it, things like that. So yeah, really, in terms of like doing something with this, I think I missed the boat by like 8 years. Like if I
Oh, wow.
started reviewing things, uh, started reviewing toys or whatever at a younger age, maybe about 9 years ago, I think there would have been something to do with a career there. But right now, it's like there's way too many YouTube channels with people reviewing and things like
Yeah,
that.
I had no
That
idea.
yeah, I don't think it would be a good idea to start to start in terms of trying to make money. But I think I'm just more of like just get my art out.
That's crazy. So I thought that I thought there was a lot more parallels between sneakers and action figure photography, but it sounds like becoming like a influencer in your space, it's a lot tougher than someone who wants to get the notice of sneaker brands and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's already people that we consider like the founding fathers, essentially. So, I mean, I have a lot of respect for these people. They've been taking photos of their figures for a very long time, and it could be like scary in a sense, like when you're basically starting to do something that a lot of people might frown upon. It's like, you still collect toys? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? You're like in your 30s and things like that. So I really admire these guys, like actually taking the time to like do toy photography, do reviews on figures. And like, to be honest, when people tell me like, what, you still collect toys, like this stuff is not cheap. Like this is not like a $5 toy that you get at a store. Like a lot of my stuff is like retails for like $100. And like, think about buying a few of those each month. Like some toy companies like Hasbro and things like that will make stuff that's like $15, $20 that a lot of us still collect as adults. But I buy a lot of like import stuff. I buy a lot of figures that have well, for instance, like this company Mezco, they make figures with clothing, and like that's not cheap. That's like $120 retail figure, right? So like you're not going to buy that for your kids as a parent, right? So so when a lot of people say like oh, you collect toys, blah blah blah, this and that, I usually just tell them like, listen, man, it's not the same. It's not what you think it is. It's not
Yeah,
like a lights and sounds figure. It's something else. So it's a passion of mine, and I admire those people that actually started. I can think of one gentleman. His name is D Amazing on Instagram. I usually come like relate him to you because I see you as like one of these people that's very very influential in the community. And D Amazing I also see as very very influential, because he was essentially the person that I started watching his reviews and influenced me to buy a lot of things before I even thought about it. So um, to get to that level takes a lot of time, and I don't think that I want to start on that journey because there's already people that are way at the top that I don't think you can get to that level unless you bring something very very new and interesting. And yeah, I don't. It's very difficult to get that.
I can agree with you on that. I mean, even for myself, it's fortunate that I started my YouTube channel when I did, which was like 6 years ago or so. But even then, when you look at the landscape now, the guys from the States, there's so many huge like giants in that space already. And but for myself, like I don't get caught up in the numbers too much. Like at the end of the day, I'm sure both of us can agree we like what we're doing. We don't consider it like a job. We don't consider it like a
Yeah,
chore. And as long as we're having fun with it, then whatever success we get from it, it'll just come as a bonus.
that's exactly it. Like when like I got to what was 1,000 followers, like I was like, holy crap, like is this real life? Like I'm just like a dude from Toronto that collects toys and sneakers, and like it's just, I don't know, it's really cool to see that like that many people like enjoy your work. So wherever it goes from there, it's like all bonus to me. But
100%, man. Like I'm like you, just a guy born and raised in Toronto, just happened to love shoes and happened to decide to click create YouTube channel and one random day in 2016, and then I have people coming up to me saying hi, like I love your videos and stuff, and it's so humbling because like I'm just like you guys, you know.
Yeah.
There's no other difference other than like I talk about my shoes in front of a camera and show it to you. But
I do notice that like some people tend to take your stuff and like be envious of it or something like that. I really like I don't want people to ever do that. I've seen some posts in the sneaker or in the toy community about like creator envy and things like that, and people like shutting down their accounts because they can't reach a level that they see other people reaching. That sucks, man. Like to read some of that stuff, and sometimes I see it in your comment section too on your YouTube videos. It's like really like do this stuff for yourself. Like find your style of art. Find your like niche. It doesn't have to be exactly what like the top photographers are doing. Like just kind of find something that you're happy with. I hate how that discourages someone to just or encourages someone to close down their account because creator envy or whatever. Like at the end of the day, like I find people are doing this too much to please other people, and it should not be about pleasing other people. It should be about expressing yourself and things like that. So I don't know if anybody's listening here and they're thinking about the idea of, sneaker photography or toy photography or whatever, just like get into it. What do you have to lose? Like, even if people are saying things like, just don't worry about it. Just make it your own.
you should be your biggest critic and not really anyone else.
That's who my biggest critic is exactly me. Like sometimes I won't post
Oh,
something
I
because
know you,
I'm not
man. I
happy
know.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you are harsh on yourself, but
Yeah. The funny thing is like I'll post something that like I was just completely not happy with, but I'm posting it because I haven't posted in 2 days, and I want to keep that streak going, and then people will just absolutely love it, and I'm in my head I'm like, man, no, like I hate it, kind of thing. So yeah, be your biggest critic. Like don't let people tell you that like your work sucks or whatever. Like
so on that note, I mean, anything else you want to share with our listeners? Where can they find you, or anything? Any last words of advice?
well, if you ever wanted to take a look at my stuff, my Instagram handle is at plastic.life, but the life is spelled with a Y, and I keep getting questions for that over and over again, and I'll clear the air on this podcast. I I had to spell it with a Y because plastic life with an I is taken by this girl who has a lot of surgery done. So, so she kind of looks like a Barbie. I guess I didn't want to be affiliated with it, but I really wanted that name because I came up with it while I was like in my old house at the time. Uh, there was literally action figures or sneakers literally everywhere in the house. Like you couldn't step somewhere because there was either collectibles or sneakers. And one day I said to myself, like, damn it, my life is plastic. Like fucking plastic. Oh, sorry. I don't know if this is a kid friendly show.
It's all good.
But yeah, my life is plastic, like everywhere. So I came up with the name Plastic Life. And then when I went to put it into Instagram, it said essentially, sorry, that name was taken. And several different variations of that name were taken too. And I'm looking at them, and a lot of these plastic lives were like plastic surgery cases and things like that. And I'm like, damn it. Whatever, I'll change the I to a Y and make it stupid like that. So that's essentially how I got that name. Just make sure if you're searching for me and you see, somebody who had a lot of plastic surgery done, that's not me. I'm the toy guy. If you want to just like do it, don't do what I did and wait too long, because I think what my biggest regret is waiting. I've collected for so long, and sneaker photography, toy photography has been around for a while, and I really wish that I started a lot earlier. So if you are on the fence about something, it doesn't have to be any of the two things that we talked about today. If you're on the fence about starting a new business,
Yep.
or something like that, like, man, just like go, like life's so short.
Totally. It's like do as Nike says, just do it.
That's it. Like we've been wearing that brand since we were kids, and we sometimes we just don't do it. It doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, the other thing is too, like when you were talking about parallels between the two communities, the number one parallel that I'm seeing right now is like the resale thing. And I just couldn't believe that it would hit the toy community, because now it's like grown ass men, like, you know, my age or your age, like above, uh, calling each other names and like swearing at companies for not being able to get the toy that they wanted. And it's just like, I thought I left, not left, but I thought I moved over from one to another to escape that type of toxicity. And it's kind of following into like every community that I see. So I don't know, man. Stop the hate if you can, please.
Yeah.
Like,
Just it is what it is, man. Just gotta be happy with what you have, adapt, or just move on with to something else, you know?
yeah, it's yeah. Don't let it get to you like that. It's not worth being upset over.
Yeah, it's pretty funny though, to be honest.
It is,
If you
man.
take a step back, it's
It
hilarious.
is.
All right, so plastic.life with a Y. If you want to check out Mike's work on Instagram, do you share your sneaker photos anymore? Or
Uh, You can on my personal account. I don't know if my personal account is private. It probably isn't. It's at G86 Mike, but you won't see anything like more current because I don't share shots of it. I share just stories if I get a pickup. Really, if you want to see more photos of my dog, you can follow that. But that's more, that's more what that personal account is for. I think I've totally shifted away from shooting what's on foot that day to toy photography.
shout out to Abby though.
Yeah, shout out to Abby, my dog. She's been through a lot. So
That's her behind you, right? On the
on the wall there.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's my wife spending unnecessary money on a photographer to shoot my dog, and we spent like $500 on 3 large photos of my
Wow.
dog. Like just like
I mean, she is your kid, so
essentially, yeah, that's
yeah,
what we look to her as, is our kid.
that's
But
amazing.
yeah,
Cool. Well, for everyone listening, you can check out the Channel 8 podcast on most of your major podcast platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, etc. Myself, you can check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/SeanGo. I'm on Instagram at sgo8 and on Twitter at sean.go spelt out. So thank you, Mike, so much. This has been very informative. I'm sure our listeners learned a ton because most of us probably aren't even that exposed to the action figure photography space. So thank you very much.
thanks, man. It was awesome to be on there. I can't wait to hang out with you again, like outside,
One day it's
instead of
happening.
just chatting every day on WhatsApp. But yeah, man, thanks a lot for having me.
So thank you guys so much for listening. Tune in to next week's episode. And until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.